Picture this. You're a barbarian warrior, standing on a misty battlefield somewhere in Gaul around 50 BC. The morning fog parts, and suddenly you see them. Thousands upon thousands of Roman soldiers in perfect formation, their bronze and iron gleaming like the gates of hell itself. But it's not just their discipline that makes your blood run cold. It's the arsenal of death they're carrying. Welcome back to Ancient Rome Revisited. I'm your host, Marcus Aurelius, the once great Roman emperor who had the pleasure of leading Rome's most formidable armies. Today, I'm going to show you through 15 of the most terrifying weapons that made the Roman army the ultimate killing machine of the ancient world. Trust me, after learning about these instruments of destruction, you'll understand why barbarian mothers used to scare their children to sleep with stories about the Roman legions. Before we begin, though, if you love Roman history and want to learn more about the trials and tribulations of the people and the Republic of Rome, then click the subscribe button now, and you'll never miss another episode of Ancient Rome Revisited. If you have just clicked subscribe, then I, Marcus Aurelius, thank you. Okay, let's begin our tour through 15 of the most terrifying weapons of war used by the ancient Roman army. But first, let me hear you say, for strength and honor. Excellent, let's go. 1. The Pugio, the silent killer. Let's start with something small but deadly. The Pugio, Rome's answer to the modern combat knife. This wasn't your average kitchen butter knife, folks. Oh no, this 9-inch blade was the Roman soldier's last resort and his most intimate of weapons. Imagine it as the ancient equivalent of a Navy SEAL's tactical knife, designed for one purpose: killing people up close and personal. The Pugio had a leaf-shaped blade that could punch through armor, and Roman soldiers wore it on their belt like a deadly fashion accessory. What made it terrifying wasn't just its effectiveness in combat, it was also the weapon of choice for assassinations. Remember Julius Caesar? Yeah, those senators probably used Pugios to turn Rome's greatest leader into a human pincushion. 2. The Hosta, the original spear. Before Rome became the empire we know and love, Roman soldiers carried the Hosta, a long spear that was basically the ancient version of keeping your enemies at arm's length, except arm's length was about 6 to 8 feet. Think of it as the grandfather of all pointy sticks, but engineered by people who really knew how to kill efficiently. The Hosta was perfect for the early Roman phalanx formation, where soldiers would present a wall of spears all pointed towards the enemy. Imagine running toward what looks like a giant porcupine made of angry Romans. That's what facing a Hosta-equipped phalanx felt like. 3. The Scorpio, the ancient sniper rifle. Now we're getting into the big toys. The Scorpio was Rome's precision artillery piece. Imagine a giant crossbow that could put a bolt through a man's chest from 400 yards away. This wasn't spray-and-pray warfare. This was surgical removal of enemy commanders and siege defenders. Roman engineers would set up these bad boys on hilltops and pick off enemy leaders like they were playing the world's deadliest video game. The psychological effect was devastating. Imagine trying to rally your troops when your generals kept getting slammed into the chest with 3-foot arrows from afar. The caltrops, ancient landmines. Here's where Roman ingenuity gets truly diabolical. Caltrops were 4-pointed iron spikes, designed so that no matter how they landed, one point always faced upward. Romans would scatter these across battlefields like the world's most painful confetti. Now try and picture this. You're charging toward the Roman lines, adrenaline pumping, ready for glory, and suddenly it feels like you've stepped on the world's sharpest piece of Lego, except this one goes through your foot and potentially cripples you for life. Romans basically invented the landmine 2,000 years before World War I, but without the explosives, of course. The arqueballista, portable death machine. The arqueballista was essentially a portable ballista. Think of it as the ancient Roman equivalent of a rocket-propelled grenade launcher. This beast could fire massive bolts or stones with enough force to demolish walls or turn enemy soldiers into a dog's breakfast. What made it so terrifying was its mobility. Unlike larger siege engines, the arqueballista could be quickly moved around the battlefield, meaning Romans could bring devastating firepower wherever they needed it most. 6. The plumbata, weighted death darts. Imagine if darts night at your local pub involved actual death instead of just wounded pride. The plumbata, also called martio barbuli, were weighted darts that Roman soldiers could hurl with devastating accuracy. Each legionnaire carried about 5 of these in his shield. These weren't just thrown willy-nilly. Romans trained extensively with plumbatae, and a skilled soldier could put one through an enemy's eye socket from 50 yards away. They were like having a handful of throwing knives, except designed by engineers who understood physics and really wanted to hit the enemy where it hurt most, in the face. 7. The ballista, ancient artillery. The ballista was Rome's answer to the question of, how do we kill lots of people who are really far away? This massive siege engine was essentially a giant crossbow that could launch stones the size of bowling balls or bolts as long as telephone poles. What made the ballista truly terrifying was its accuracy and power. Roman engineers could calculate trajectories and consistently hit targets over half a mile away. Imagine feeling as though you were safe behind your fortress walls, thinking you're secure, when suddenly a 60-pound stone comes screaming through your window at 150 miles per hour. That's a bad day by anyone's standards. But for the Romans, it gave them one hell of an advantage on the battlefield. 8. The onager, the skull crusher. Named after the wild ass because of its kick, the onager was Rome's heavy artillery. This catapult could hurl 60-pound stones over 400 yards with enough force to demolish buildings or turn groups of enemy soldiers into pancakes. The psychological warfare aspect was just as important as the physical damage. The sound of an incoming onager stone was described as being like thunder, and watching your fortress walls crumble under the relentless bombardment was enough to break the spirit of even the most determined defenders. 9. The caraballista, mobile artillery. Romans took the ballista concept and said, you know what this needs? Wheels. The caraballista was a mobile artillery piece that could keep up with marching legions and provide fire support wherever needed. This was revolutionary. Imagine your enemy having mobile howitzers when you're still figuring out how to make better swords. Roman armies could set up devastating fire support in minutes, raining death from above while their infantry advanced. It was like bringing a gun to a knife fight, except the gun was the size of a car. 10. The corvus, the boarding bridge of doom. Now here's where Roman innovation gets really creative. The corvus was a boarding bridge used in naval warfare, designed to turn sea battles into land battles, which Romans were much better at. Picture this. You're a Carthaginian sailor, confident in your superior naval skills, when suddenly this massive wooden bridge crashes down onto your ship, complete with iron spikes to hold it in place. Before you can react, 30 heavily armed Roman marines are charging across it, turning your ship into their personal gladiator arena. The corvus essentially turned Roman naval warfare into hand-to-hand, close-range combat, but on a ship instead of on land. 11. The gladius, the butcher's blade. The gladius, Rome's signature weapon, and probably the most famous sword in history. This 24-inch blade was perfectly designed for one thing: efficiently killing people in close combat. While other cultures were swinging around massive swords like they were chopping firewood, Romans perfected the art of the quick, precise kill. The gladius was used with a large shield in a stabbing motion rather than slashing. Roman soldiers trained to strike or punch this blade into an enemy's gut, which they twisted and then withdrew, a technique that could drop a man in seconds. It was less epic sword duel and more industrial-scale butchery. In the hands of a trained legionnaire, the gladius could kill multiple enemies in rapid succession. 12. The scutum, the shield that kills. I know what you're thinking, but a shield is a defensive item, not a weapon. Oh, my sweet summer child, you haven't seen a Roman scutum in action. This wasn't just protection. This was a 22-pound battering ram disguised as a shield. The scutum's curved design and bronze boss, the metal bump in the center, made it perfect for shield-bashing enemies into unconsciousness. Romans would use it to knock opponents off balance, then follow up with a gladius thrust. Plus, the scutum could interlock with other shields to form the famous testudo, tortoise formation. Imagine facing a moving wall of shields with spears sticking out, like a medieval tank made of angry Romans. 13. The pilum, the armor-piercing javelin. Here's where Roman engineering genius really shines. The pilum wasn't just a spear you threw. It was a brilliant piece of military technology designed to ruin your entire day. This javelin had a long iron shank that could punch through shields and armor. But here's the evil genius part. It was designed to bend on impact. So try and imagine this. You're an enemy soldier. The pilum hits your shield, penetrates it, and then bends, making your shield impossible to use and too heavy to carry. You have to drop it, leaving you defenseless. Meanwhile, you can't throw the pilum back because it's now shaped like a question mark. Romans basically invented the one-way ticket to hell. 14. Greek fire. Liquid nightmare. Okay, technically this was Byzantine rather than classical Roman, but the Eastern Roman Empire counts, right? Greek fire was the ancient world's equivalent of napalm, a liquid fire that burned on water and couldn't be extinguished by conventional means. Imagine being on an enemy ship when suddenly your vessel is engulfed in flames that water can't put out. The very ocean around you is on fire. This stuff was so terrifying and effective that the formula was one of history's most closely guarded state secrets. We still don't know exactly how they made it. It was like having supernatural powers in an age of swords and shields. 15. The Roman legion itself. The ultimate war machine. Believe it or not, the most terrifying weapon in Rome's arsenal wasn't made of iron or wood. It was the legion itself. A Roman legion wasn't just 5,000 soldiers. It was a perfectly oiled killing machine with standardized training, equipment, and tactics that could adapt to any situation. Every Roman soldier was trained to the same exacting standards, equipped with the same weapons, and drilled in the same formations. They could build fortified camps in hours, march 20 miles a day in full gear, and fight in formations that maximized their strengths while minimizing their weaknesses. They were disciplined, professional, and utterly ruthless. Facing a Roman legion wasn't like fighting an army. It was like fighting a natural disaster that happened to carry swords. They would systematically destroy your settlements, enslave your people, and incorporate your territory into their empire with the efficiency of a bureaucratic meat grinder. The psychological impact was enormous. Just the sight of Roman eagles on the horizon was enough to make enemy commanders consider surrender. Why? Because everyone knew that Romans didn't just win battles, they won wars, and they never, ever gave up. So there you have it. 15 weapons that helped Rome conquer the known world and create an empire that lasted over 1,000 years. From the humble Pugio to the terrifying efficiency of the legion system, Romans didn't just fight wars, they perfected them. The next time someone asks you why Rome dominated the ancient world for so long, just remember, it wasn't just because they had good roads and excellent bureaucracy. It was because they approached warfare like engineers, turning the art of killing into a science. And honestly, thank goodness we live in an age of international law and Geneva Conventions, because if the Romans were around today with modern technology, we'd probably all be speaking Latin and living in fear of the Legion's cybersecurity division. Let me know your thoughts on these weapons of war in the comment section below. And if you have yet clicked subscribe, please do so now. Then you won't ever miss another episode of Ancient Rome Revisited. If you've just clicked subscribe, then I, Marcus Aurelius, thank you. I'll see you in the next video.